All right, so now we're going to walk through transitioning from being able to print out or get at our individual single dimensional arrays to joining them and working through how to utilize them in a multi-dimensional array. So this should be fairly straightforward. So I have a variable that's holding an array of Ninja Turtles. And so Don is holding Donatello's array and Leo's, Leonardo, and so forth. And so then to print at each individual element, I need to know what element I want to get at. In other words, this is element number 0, this is element number 1, and this presumably is their age, by the way, which is element number 2. So in my example here so far, I have if I want to print out Leonardo's information, I have to get to Leo and print out array number 0, which is going to point to Leonardo. And then I'm just concatenating a string, and then to put what color, I'm going to go to the variable Leo and put in brackets the number 1, which is printing out whatever's in the second position in the array. And then again, Leo position or array number or index number 2, which is 0, 1, position 2, will print out the age. All right, so that being said, let's go ahead and run our code. I'm going to save it. It looks like it's not saved, so I'm going to save it and then run it. And you can see that, in fact, the information from Leo is being printed out here. Well, this isn't necessarily very efficient, because if I want to print out all of these turtles, then I'm going to have to make print statements for each and every one. So it's better if we can find a way to loop through the arrays and be able to print that information dynamically. In other words, not hard coding anything. So here's how I would do that. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to append all of my arrays into one big array. So I'm going to append into array turtles Don, Leo, Mike, and Rafa. So let me just get that done real quick. Leo, array turtles, append, Mike, array turtles, append, and we're going to append, who am I missing? Don, Mike, Leo, Rafa. Okay, so now that I have all of those, I'm going to leave this code here. Well, maybe I'll just comment it out for the short run. And so if I want to loop through my array turtles and print out each of these, what can I do? Well, let's see. I'm going to do for I in range, and then I'm going to get the length dynamically of array turtles. So that'll return how many elements are within the array. And so just for practice or debugging, or remember that concept of starting small and making it work and seeing what you get and then adding to it. So instead of just putting a bunch of code out here, I'm just going to print array turtles of I and see what we get. So now I'm looping through, ideally I'm looping through each element in the array. In other words, this is going to be the first time I go through the loop, I should have this array. The second time in the loop, I should have this entire array. Let's just see that happen. So again, I'm going to perhaps have an error. Built-in function object is not. So I start off with an error right off the bat, and let's see if I can figure out what I've done. Oh, this shouldn't be great. Oops, I made a mistake. Did you see it? So I'm not supposed to be putting brackets here. I'm supposed to be doing parentheses. All right, so now we'll fix that. Leo, no, not quotation or curly braces, but parentheses. This is Leo, Leon, Mike. All right, let's see if that makes our compiler a little happier. I'm guessing it will. Rafa. All right. Now let's print that out and see what we get. All right, so now you can see that each time we go through that loop, we're printing out an actual full array. So in other words, array turtles of 0 is this entire array. And then array turtles of 1 is this entire array. And array turtles of 2 is this entire array. And hopefully that's starting to sink in here. And then the last element in that loop, we're just going to print out this array. So each time we go through this array, we're getting, every time we go through this loop, this array of turtles, we are getting a hold of each individual array each time we go through that loop. So that being said, if I want to print each element in the array, what can I do? Well, this is array totals of I0, this is array totals of I1, and this is array totals of I2. Not sure what you mean by that. Well, let me see if I can make this a little bit clearer. So we agree that array totals of I is this whole array. So if I want to get at Donatello, for example, or Leonardo, or Michelangelo, if I do 0, then I should be getting at the first element in each of these arrays. So now we're drilling down. This doesn't look right. That should be a parenthesis. Now we're drilling down into each array. So first I'm going to grab an entire array and then pick out a particular element in that array, or particular position. So now let's see if we're printing out just the names. So let me save that, and then we'll print out what comes out. And I've got an error in line 25. So I forgot the closing part of my print parentheses. And I'm going to run that again, and let's see what we get. So now you can see that once we syntactically put things correct, I'm getting the individual values. So I could continue with this thought process and then do, if I want to get at the purple, then that would be 1. And then if I wanted to, or the color, and then this would be the age. So now I'm getting at each individual piece of that array. Okay, so makes sense. But here's another thought that we can do. Maybe we want to create a loop that loops through these. In other words, I can see a pattern here. Everything here is the same with the exception of the 0, 1, and 2, which means that I can loop through each of these elements in this array while I'm looping through the big elements, the elements in the big array. In other words, let's do this. I'm going to put another loop inside of a loop, so I'm going to create a different variable in range, and this time I'm going to do the length of array totals of I. So we saw that array totals of I is printing out each individual array. So now I'm going to say, okay, now that I have this single array here, in other words, when I did print, remember when we did print array totals of I? Remember when we just did this in the beginning part of this video? Array totals of I is pulling out this individual array, or this individual array in the second loop. Third time it's putting out this one. So if array totals of I is bringing me this entire array, maybe I can print out what is the length of this new array. Well, it's 0, 1, 2. And so what I'm going to do is print through. So now if I print, let's do this, print array totals of I, comma, j. So what that's saying is, let's just print it and see if it works before I pop my wares and say what it's supposed to do. Let's see what happens. Okay, so we can see that, so the first print is printing out this entire array as I suspected it might. Okay, so there it's printing out. Let me stop scrolling here. There's the first array. Then I'm going to loop through each element in this array with my for j in range. So I'm going to do a loop that's going to continually finish. Once it finishes, then we're going to go back to the big loop. In other words, if I print out, so the first time I is 0, right? So we're going to print out array totals of 0. And then the first time we go through this inner loop, j is 0. So in essence, the first time we go through the loop, we're printing out array totals 0 and then 0. And then the second time we go through the loop, we'll be printing out the second iteration. Second time, we're going to be printing out array totals 0 of 1. And then the third time we go through, we're going to be printing out, the third time, we're going to be printing out array totals 0 of 2. 0, let me do that. This is just commenting, but I'm hoping that you're going to see what's happening. So this is the first time we go through this inner loop, and that's what's printing here. So the first time we go through this inner loop, array totals is 0 of 0. which is printing out this first array and this first element, which is Donatello. The second time, we're still in this loop, so I hasn't changed, but J is changing. So J becomes 1. So we're printing out still 0 and 1, which is printing out purple. The third time we go through the loop, we're still in the J loop, so I is still 0, but now we've incremented J, which is 2. So now we're printing out array turtles of 2, which is printing out the age. Okay, so and then you can see that pattern persisting throughout here. So now we're able to see that we can, like if we wanted to change, this is the beauty of all of this, if we wanted to change, I don't know what else, I don't know what else might be relevant. Maybe they're from Chicago, maybe, and I know this isn't the case, I'm just kind of winging this here, Leonardo's from Hawaii, and Michelangelo is from Queens, and I don't know, another precinct or another subdivision in New York. I'm not from there. How about New York? There we go. Talk to the turtle and see what happens. Ha, no pun intended. All right, so then now this code will just work because everything is dynamic. So if I hit you can see that New York got included, Hawaii got included, and why is that? Because everything here is absolutely dynamic. I'm just pulling out the length of the array turtles and letting it just flow through the for loops. So that gives you a good visual, hopefully, of how you can manipulate or have to start thinking about, not only when I'm setting up an array of arrays, I have to think about, I have a big array of turtles that has little arrays inside of it. So I need to be very cognizant of not only which array I'm addressing in the array of turtles, but once I grab a hold of that array element, I'm tapping into array elements within the little array, the inner array. So hopefully this video helps clear up some of those concepts.